I'm right outside Lily Ray's office at Path Interactive. You can see it right behind me. It's the big building up here. So I'll be going up there in a minute and saying hello to her and talking to her about what she does for her company and what she does for her business. So I'll talk about that soon. Hey, so I have with me Lily Ray from Path Interactive.
Hey there.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for doing one of the first ones. Hopefully it'll work out well. Could you just tell us a little about yourself and this company and what you do for Path Interactive?
Sure. So I'm the SEO Director at Path Interactive. We have a team of about 14 SEOs right now based in New York City as well as Nashville. We have about 70 to 80 SEO clients across a large variety of verticals, 50% B2B, 50% B2C. So we kind of touch on a lot of different industries with the type of work that we do. And we really try to stay current with everything that's happening in the SEO world. So whether it be, local SEO, even Amazon SEO, e-commerce, we kind of touch on all the different areas. So.
And how long have you been doing SEO?
It's 10 years this year.
10 years, wow.
Yeah.
So you started pre-Panda, right?
It was right around the time that Panda was rolling out, but then the real beginning of my career really felt like Penguin because I was working in-house at a company that got destroyed by Penguin. Prior to that, I was buying a lot of backlinks, so that was my first real SEO experience. Basically leaving that company after Penguin rolled out.
That was SEO back in the day. It's pretty much buying links, and now it's totally different. I assume that's your approach in this company. It's been all about content, I assume?
We definitely don't buy links. We try to figure out creative ways to get links that it's compliant with what Google's kind of laid out in its webmaster guidelines. But we're much more focused on producing high quality content as an SEO team and hoping that it gets links in return.
Yeah, that's what I recommend to everybody. Just make sure you have quality content that attracts links. Of course, you kind of have to push it a little bit sometimes.
Of course.
But that's interesting. So when you left your previous company, can you talk about that transition, how you moved from your stages through your career?
Sure, yeah. So started out at a startup that's where I learned what SEO was. I was kind of hired as a social media marketer during college, and then they had me doing meta keywords and title tags and stuff like that, and that's when I learned what SEO was. That was way back in the day. Went from there to the job in question where it was a finance company and they basically said, if you can get us to number one for this keyword, we'll give you XYZ prize. I was like, great, let's do it. So spent a lot of time on Black Hat World. Was that what it's called?
Yeah.
Black Hat World and all those kind of shady backlink places that used to exist back in the day. And when Penguin happened, had to leave that role because it just wasn't working out anymore. Tried doing a big reconsideration request project that didn't really pan out. So I went to my previous agency where I was at for 6 years, ended up being SEO Director there, and then a year and a half ago I came here. So been in the agency side for, I guess, about 7 or 8 years now.
Interesting. And how do you like the agency side?
I love it. It's exhilarating and thrilling and exhausting all at the same time. But what's really cool about it is you get to spend time with so many different clients. Again, we have 70 or 80 here. So every day you're talking about so many different topics and researching so many different topics that it stays very interesting. Never gets really boring.
And it's a diverse set of clients?
Yeah. Pretty much any category that you can think of, we've done SEO for them, including businesses that you never even knew existed, which is really fun. And at my last role, I was much more focused on e-commerce, and that ended up actually really focused on Amazon SEO, which is interesting. It's kind of like SEO from 7 or 8 years ago. It's much more basic,
right.
But it's not as exciting as doing regular SEO for Google and Bing and the other search engines. So.
All right, so since you've been the Panda and Penguin sides, and now we're kind of into this core algorithm update side of things, what would you say is the biggest difference, do you think, between the previous Google updates and maybe these core algorithm updates?
They're all kind of tied back to the same notion of just not spamming Google and trying to provide good quality content. So I actually think the recent updates that have happened in the past couple of years are very similar to Panda in a lot of ways. Not so similar to Penguin, just in the sense that I think Penguin was obviously much more focused on link spam. I think there's a component of that to the new algorithm updates, but I think it's a lot more focused on not only quality content, but trustworthy and authoritativeness of content, which I think is what makes these new algorithm updates kind of unique and kind of new in a sense. Because I think Google's kind of changing the criteria a little bit for what it means to be a trustworthy website. Whereas a couple of years ago, you might have been able to rank really well for like a medical website that doesn't have a lot of credibility in the space or doesn't have recognized authors or anything like that, but that criteria has changed recently. So that's what makes it kind of new and interesting.
So you mentioned one thing is, trusted or respected or recognizable authors.
Mm-hmm.
How important do you think that is, and how do you communicate that this author knows what he or she is talking about in the space?
Yeah. I think that seems to be like one of the hottest questions in the SEO world right now, because I think what happened with Medic August 1st was everyone became hyper-focused on that, myself included. And like with all things in SEO, everybody becomes way too focused on things, and so they just put authors' names everywhere and come up with these fake biographies about them and hope that makes them rank really well. And that's not necessarily the right strategy. I think that what's much more important is to make sure that if you do have like a Your Money, Your Life website, that you're being transparent with who your authors are and what their credentials are. But authorship is not always required for every industry. It's just definitely important, not only for SEO, but for users. If you're reading like medical content, you want to know whose content you're reading. Is it actually a doctor's content or is it a freelance writer? So it's not only an SEO play, but it's a good digital marketing strategy in general.
So I actually was talking to somebody, I think a couple days ago, and they were like, how do I go ahead and do well with it was like a financial website.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't just buy links these days. I really think you should invest in your staff. Mm-hmm. Make them recognizable experts in the field, have them write content. It might lead to really great content. It might lead to a lot of good links, but it also will lead to you guys being interviewed on the Wall Street Journal and different places like that. And is that what you're kind of suggesting?
Yeah, so one thing that we've had to kind of change the thinking around with our clients is the quality versus quantity of content. And a lot of kind of light bulbs went off with our clients when we said, hey, do you have experts internally that can speak to this stuff? And everyone's like, of course, But we never thought about using those people for our blog. So now what we're doing a lot of is looping in different people from the organization and having their names behind things, or at least having them review the content and attaching their name to it. And then if you do have a situation where you hire freelance writers, which we do here because we have content production needs that we do as an agency. For YMYL websites, we just make sure that we're talking to those writers about, hey, like, are you okay putting your name behind this? And hopefully only choosing writers that already have those credentials to the point where they're like, of course I'll put my name behind it because I believe in what I'm writing and I know that it's legit. So,
do you think has it been a struggle for you to get the clients and the individuals at those firms or websites to actually put their names behind stuff? Has it been like 50-50 or like 20%?
Yeah, we come up with some creative ways when people don't want to put their names behind it. Like sometimes you'll see companies put like, this is written by our staff, and then that'll include a link to a page that talks about who the staff is and what their editorial policy is. But we were actually just talking about this as a team. Like if you're a writer on a Your Money, Your Life website or on that topic, you should probably be willing to have your name attached to your work because you're probably building up your own kind of trustworthiness online. So for most people, it hasn't really been that much of a roadblock.
So in terms of you fixing the Google saying of you can't fix anything. Mm-hmm. So when a client comes to you and says, I was demolished by this core update, do you go to them, sorry, we can't fix it? Or do you say, all right, these are the steps we need to take to fix it? Obviously, this is what you do every day.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it because I've been doing a lot of talking about the algorithm updates, and I have a lot of people come up to me afterwards and say, hey, I run a business that does natural medicine for cancer, and I've been writing about this for 5 years. Like, can my business succeed in this post-August 1st world? And my answer is usually like, it's really, really tricky. It's going to be very, very hard for your website to rank, particularly for medical terminology. So there is a business and there is an audience out there that's looking for natural treatments, or maybe they want to know the benefits of essential oils or something like that. But you can't really be an essential oils website that's trying to rank for heart attack treatments, assuming that that's something that people claim that essential oils can do. You just have to be honest about what your product actually does, and you have to make sure that even if you are natural medicine, you're just citing your sources with whatever expert sources you use in your industry. And hopefully people that are looking for that kind of niche can find your product, but it might be much more difficult to rank for the keywords that you used to rank for.
And I think John Mueller and other Googlers have been sharing some of your tweets recently about advice that people could take in terms of these core updates, maybe around medic updates and so forth. You had some client case studies, I guess, in terms of seeing success factors with those changes.
Yeah.
Can you just, obviously we don't have a board here, but you just describe it a little bit.
Yeah. So a lot of those were pretty straightforward. Like some really big companies didn't even have an About Us page, or if they did, it just didn't talk that much about who they are as a company. So in the search quality guidelines, it tells the raters to go and look at the About page as like the first source of who the business is. So that's a really easy place to just go and just make sure that you have like your leadership team listed, how many years you've been in business, what awards have you won, things like that. So that's easy. Authorship, like we talked about, it's not always necessary to just plaster someone's name on everything, but if you are YMYL, think really hard about how you're presenting the information. And also citing your sources within the content. So one thing I've been looking a lot at is the websites that do well, for example, in the medical space, and the websites that don't. An old school way of thinking in the SEO world would be like, I don't want to link out to other sites because it's passing link juice to the other websites and, it's affecting my rankings, or I'm linking to a competitor or something like that. But it actually seems to be the case that most of the top ranking sites in the YMYL space have a lot of external links and they're followed links within the content, because I think that shows the search engines we're willing to cite our sources from these kind of high quality publications. And some websites have been getting really, really creative with like, if you hover over a medical claim, there will be a little pop-up that says this is evidence-based or fact-checked, and then you can learn more about their editorial policy. So just transparency is really, I think, the number one name of the game.
Interesting. And in terms of transparency, do you think Google has been recently more transparent than they have been in the past? Or do you think they've been a little less transparent?
In terms of communicating with the SEO world? Or?
Yeah, in general.
I think they're doing the best they can. I'm always really impressed with, John Mueller and Gary and all these guys going out there and kind of being willing to answer people's questions. A lot of people have very personal questions that only apply to their own websites, and the Googlers are even willing to kind of talk to some of these people and kind of guide them through the process. So that's been really cool. I do think there's sometimes confusion about when Googler says something and somebody else says something else, but that's just kind of a natural byproduct of having such a huge organization and information changing so quickly. So I think that they're being as transparent, if not more transparent, than they've ever been, personally.
Do you think they should be a little bit more transparent about these updates in terms of not just saying you can't fix anything?
Yeah. And
retweeting third-party SEO comments? Not that your feedback isn't great.
Yeah.
Why can't Google come up with that list of things that people should?
So I definitely feel that. I definitely feel like there's a big void in terms of Google's official communications about what these algorithm updates are doing. But I also understand why they're being kind of vague about it, and that's obviously because when Google says something, tens of thousands of SEOs go and spam it, and so that changes the direction of what they're trying to accomplish with their own algorithms. They then have to go account for the fact that SEOs are spamming it. So I was tweeting the other day, this is why SEOs can never have nice things.
Yeah.
Like as soon as something cool happens, we all spam the hell out of it, and then it just can't happen anymore.
But that's the FAQs, with the emojis
yeah,
and links.
I was like, don't do that.
It's funny. It goes away a week later, and then whatever. Anyway, I appreciate you taking the time, especially one of the first vlogs we've done on the Search Engine Roundtable. Where can people learn more about you, and what type of services do you guys provide that people want to hire you for anything?
Yeah, so just go to pathinteractive.com. We offer a full suite of digital marketing services, search marketing. Within the SEO team, we basically do everything you can think of from an SEO standpoint, including algorithm update audits and trying to get sites back into shape. So we'd love to work with anybody who's interested.
And if they want to follow your sayings on SEO and stuff, Twitter is best? Or?
Yeah, Twitter's best. It's Lily Ray NYC. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Barry.
All right, rolling out of here. That was a great meeting with Lily Ray from Path Interactive. Now we're heading back to the Rusty Brick office to catch up on what's going on in the SEO world.